What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Stu Hine Show. Today, I'm joined by Frank Laplaca, host of the unofficial Bengals podcast. How you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing pretty good, Jordan, being that we have some tragic news lately, but it's still great to be on the show and great to talk Bengals with you again.
Yeah, really happy you're on the show today. We've not done a video, and it seems like probably 6 months or something crazy, far too long. But we have a lot to get into today. Lots of topics I wish we were not talking about, being a Bengals fan. With Joe Burrow's injury, what kind of the future holds for Cincinnati? What are they going to do to finish out the season, everything like that? There's so many unknowns for Cincinnati, and that's kind of what's worrisome right now to be a Bengal fan. But, the Bengals lose to Baltimore on Thursday night. So what are your kind of reactions, thoughts on this loss against Baltimore on Thursday?
Well, when Browning came into the game, I mean, we were going punch for punch with them. I knew it was going to be another shootout, one of those that you figure that Burrow's going to pull out in the fourth quarter. He was hitting his stride in the game. So I had pretty good confidence that either we were going to win it or we were going to hang pretty well with them. And then obviously when Burrow came out of the game, I mean, I was shocked because I didn't know anything going in that he had injured it. I didn't see the picture from him getting off the plane with the brace on it. It was just like, wait, what's going on? It was surreal. It was confusing. I was blown away. And, no disrespect to Jake Browning. I know we're going to get into him in a little bit. But when he came into the game, I was like, we're not going to win this game against, a very good Baltimore team when this guy's really having his first legitimate NFL action.
That's kind of the same way I am. Heading into Thursday, I did not think we were going to lose. I hate Baltimore. It's well documented. I hate the Ravens. I think they're overrated. I think if Burrow was healthy, we would have won that game. Maybe it's me being biased. Maybe it's just because I hate Baltimore. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But I think we would have won that game Thursday if Burrow did not get injured in that game. And when you look at him, with him getting injured, it just felt like it was like a low blow. As soon as you knew that he was hurt, it was over. And it's like nothing against Brownie, kind of like what you're saying. It's just very frustrating to me. Brownie didn't play bad. He played better than I thought he would, especially considering how crazy good Baltimore's defense is. But my expectations were really, really, really low for Browning. That might have been another reason why I just thought he played better than I thought. But when you look at Cincinnati, the thing that just kind of frustrates me the most is that we should not be in this situation. Bengal fans have been complaining for years to get a better backup quarterback. After Burrow got hurt in 2020, his rookie season, this is Burrow's fourth year, and we still do not have a good backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, I think Jameis Winston, I could be wrong. All three of those quarterbacks were free agents this past offseason. The Bengals should at least try to get one of them. I'm not saying the Bengals would be Super Bowl contenders with any of those quarterbacks, but if you put one of those quarterbacks on the Bengals roster right now, I think we're still definitely capable of a possible wild card spot. But it's just annoying knowing the fact that I don't want to kind of overreact, but I think Cincinnati kind of put themselves in this spot, and just in the fact that they had so many chances and so many opportunities in years to help Burrow get a quarterback who, could kind of fill his void. I mean, nobody can replace Burrow when there's impact on the field, but the drop from Burrow to Bridgewater is not nearly as big of a drop compared to Burrow and Jake Browning, and that's just very frustrating. And, it sucks when Burrow gets hurt, but it's the fact when it's against Baltimore, to me, the only other team that can make that worse against is Pittsburgh. And I was just that made me so much more mad. Burrow gets hurt. The season's over. This was the biggest game of the season, without a doubt, heading into Thursday night. Then Burrow gets hurt. It just felt like the timing of everything was just absolutely horrible and just made this game with them losing make it 10 times worse.
Yeah, Jordan, I agree with you. Obviously, a loss to Baltimore in that situation where, it was like if we won that game, we're basically right at the top of the division battling everyone. And then this happens. And you bring up a good point. And I have no complaints about what Mr. Tobin has done with the team and Mr. Brown and all the decisions that they've made. They've drafted well. I mean, look at, drafting Higgins, Chase, Burrow, Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt. Those have been some very good drafts. They brought in great free agents. Awuzie worked out. I know we'll talk about that, maybe a changing of the guard in the future there. But you bring in Reeder, you bring in Hilton, you bring in if I'm missing guys, whatever, I'm just riffing here. But, They brought in a bunch of really good players and they've drafted really well. So I've had no complaints with the front office. I think they've done a phenomenal job. But Jordan, you bring up a good point. When you're a Super Bowl contender, you can't have an unknown at backup. You just can't assume, Burrow's invincible. He's going to stay healthy all year. Mahomes is invincible. This is a rough league. Things happen, and you have to have a backup plan. And I know they like Browning. I know they like what they see in him. They brought him up in the system for a couple of years. They experimented with Simeon. We saw he was a disaster, really, if you look at what he did in preseason. I mean, Browning clearly and cleanly beat him out. So as much as I respect the organization for what they've done, and I don't want to say anything bad about what management has done, because I'm not trying to kiss up to management. It's true. They've done a great job. But not getting a valid backup quarterback is professional malfeasance. Unfortunately, that's the case, and that's the boat that we're in right now.
And when you look at Cincinnati, I feel like they kind of have a history of overvaluing their own players. Especially when it comes to like the trade market, they might not trade somebody because they value a player who's on their roster more than the other team might value their player. And that kind of might be the same situation with them, kind of overvaluing Browning, opposed to, like, let's say, spend $3, $4, $5 million to get Bridgewater, who signed a 1-year contract worth $3 million this past season to sign with Detroit. That's a no-brainer to me. He should have signed with Cincinnati. And the fact that the Bengals just kind of convinced themselves, Browning's already been in the system for a little bit. He knows the offense. The coaching staff likes him. We'll just stay with him instead of bringing in a guy who's going to cost more money, who doesn't know the system. It's very, very frustrating. But let's see here. CY, so are you still down on Taylor? What's your thoughts on Williams? He's at right tackle. Jonah Williams at right tackle has been a surprise. He's played way better than I thought he would. This is kind of like the resurgence of his career, I guess. Like, he's left tackle, he was terrible. This past season, he's played pretty good at right tackle. You've not heard his name or number called near as much. And as an offensive lineman, that's a good thing. But when you look at Williams, it's another situation that, Jonah Williams is somebody who, heading into this season, you did not really expect the Bengals are going to re-sign. But the fact that he's played all right at right tackle, now it's kind of a different storyline in question. That just adds somebody else to the mix. Holy crap, we got Jonah Williams as starting right tackle. We got Boyd, T. Higgins, DJ Reader. It just adds more confusion, more drama, and more uncertainty, kind of the Cincinnati in the offseason to who you're going to re-sign, because it's going to be a mess. I've been trying to tell people this for years. This was our year. I don't think people really get that. Look, as long as Joe Burrow is your quarterback, you're going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. But at the same time, our Super Bowl window and our Super Bowl chances dropped significantly after this season. And that's part of the reason why Joe Burrow getting hurt is just so terrible, because, we've talked about before, this was supposed to be our year. Anything after this year, it's just uncertainty. And that's what kind of is worry. I kind of already talked about it, but kind of worrisome as a Bengal fan. And then, are you still down on Taylor? I don't love Taylor. I don't hate him, but I feel like he gets bailed out by Burrow. Like, I don't know. When you look at Cleveland, Nick Chubb, their best player by far, aside from Myles Garrett, is out for the year. Pretty much has been out for the year the whole season. Their starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson's out for the year. They just beat Pittsburgh. Why can we not do the same thing? And it's just one of those things that's very frustrating when you look at Cincinnati. Like, the excuse is, Burrow's out. We're probably not going to win this game. And even when Burrow plays, we might not beat some of those teams on Pittsburgh's level. When you look at Cleveland, it's just, there's not much difference in our roster. Honestly, on paper, the Bengals probably have a better team than the Browns. But the Browns are winning games that they really shouldn't, with far less talent on the offensive side of the ball. They have a better defense than Cincinnati, but why can the Bengals not do the same thing? Look at some of these other teams, like the Chiefs. The Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and Reed, I know it's not really fair to compare Taylor and Burrow to that level, but they have a one game a year where they suck and lose a game that they shouldn't. How many have the Bengals had this year? It's just very frustrating. Like, Taylor, he's good. He's not great. I just think he kind of gets bailed out by Burrow more than people realize.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. Cy, excellent question out there. And there's a lot to unpack. I mean, everything you say, Jordan, I have like 90 things I want to say. But as far as Coach Taylor goes, I think, and you see it with Belichick without Tom Brady. Right now, he has a mediocre team. So, yes, I mean, Coach Taylor was on his way out the door before Burrow came and did bail him out. But I think that Coach Taylor has progressed as a coach in several ways. A lot of people have a problem with the play calling. I do not. I think the play calling has been excellent. You know, if anyone wants to debate me on that, we can watch film, we can talk about it. But what I think he has done most of all, and we can't overlook it, they have a very unified locker room, and they have everyone is all in on it, and it's a positive thing. And he takes care of the players. He doesn't kill them in training camp, and it's not like he's like a player. He is a player friendly coach, but not at the point where it's a detriment. And he's too kind to the players, and now they're a bad team. Like, he's achieved a good balance of getting them to play well, getting them to play together, getting them to just care about winning and not their personal things, and being a player coach. So, you know, there could be arguments about him, maybe because he's a little bit younger. People don't take him as seriously as some of the old timers like an Andy Reid. But honestly, I have no problem with Coach Taylor, and I'm glad that we have him. And obviously, as long as Burrow's there, Burrow loves him. You know, we've heard Burrow on record say, I want to play for Coach Taylor my entire career. So I don't really have any problem with him in that regard. I wanted to talk about the Browns situation too, but let's move on from there. But that's my opinion on Coach Taylor to answer that part of it.
I feel like Taylor is one of the topics or discussions that's very. You might get somebody who loves him, and you might get somebody who hates him. I feel like it's one of those topics that Bengal fans are very divided on. Like I get the love for him some. I get somewhat, not necessarily the hate, but the arguments that he might not be as good a little bit. But I do agree, when you look at his first year and even Burrow's rookie year, he has had significant improvements when it comes to being a head coach, and play calling has been way better. Like, play calling, go back to 2019, 2020, sucked. Like, this,
you know what it was, Jordan, not to cut you up, but in those first 2 years, he was calling the plays and trying to manage the clock and manage the game and manage the team. And it took him a little bit to get into that role. And you're right. And it showed in those first 2 years. But then Burrow hit stride, and it seemed like now Coach Taylor was able to balance those things better. He has Darren Simmons helping him a lot with clock management and things like that. But it seems like he was able to settle in a little bit more to being a coordinator and a head coach at the same time, which is immensely difficult.
Oh, absolutely. And like you're saying, it kind of takes time to kind of like slowly transition into that. And Jake Gamer, I don't care if we lose every other game this season as long as we beat Pittsburgh both times. Yep. I hate the Steelers. I hate them more than anybody. I hate them more than any team. As much as I love to talk crap about the Ravens, I'm always going to hate the Steelers more than the Ravens. This is like, I know it might be debatable because I know some people will say the Chiefs is the biggest rivalry, which I don't buy that crap. I still think the Steelers are the Bengals' biggest rivals. I don't think it's close. And it should be an interesting game this week. This game, the more you look at things, it's going to be better than people think. It's going to be closer than people think, regardless who wins. It should be a pretty good game. Who would you prioritize re-signing? That's honestly depends what mood I'm in. Like, one day you might ask me who would I want. I'll say I might say Reader, I might say Higgins, I might say whoever. Another day I might say Reader, and then I might not necessarily say Higgins. So okay, I'll let you go first. Who would you prioritize re-signing?
Okay, Higgins by a mile, and I know everyone's like, well, let him go. We have Chase. Burrow can throw to anybody. If we keep that trio together long term, we're going to be a force for years. And just watch. I mean, look, Higgins was going to be the MVP of the Super Bowl. So we can't just be like, well, we have Chase. We don't need Higgins. You need all three. You need Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. The rest of the offense, I mean, I love Joe Mixon. I want him to stay around. Tyler Boyd, Gamer, we all love him. And I'm not even going to address the drop. It doesn't matter to me. Everyone makes mistakes. But, I mean, those are the core. Those three are the core of the offense, Chase, Burrow, and Higgins. And then defensively, you got to bring Reader back. He is just such a – and you see, he doesn't have the stats, right? You don't see Reader with 9 sacks and 86 tackles. But it's on a down-by-down basis what he does for that line. You know, everyone out there knows you need to have a good offensive line and a good defensive line, and you need someone like Reader who's like a silent assassin not big numbers, but contributes heavily on every play. And Jordan, you probably know better than me. I'm not sure if Hilton is coming up for a deal. It seems like it's going to be this year or next year. I'm not positive, but he's another one that I would bring back. So if I had to bring back 3 of everyone, it would be Higgins, Reeder, Hilton.
Hypothetical, you can only re-sign one. Would you re-sign Reeder or would you re-sign Higgins?
Higgins.
That's one of the few disagreements we've had. I'm taking Reeder 100%.
I don't argue with that though.
And it's one of those things like it honestly, like 2 weeks ago, you'd ask me who would prioritize re-signing. It honestly kind of changes now because when you look at our potential draft situation, you don't know where we could be drafting. So like if we draft in the top 10 and we only win one more game, like we might maybe be looking at a potential wide receiver replacement or defensive tackle replacement. I mean, you just don't really know. And that's what the uncertainties of this rest of the season, people don't really, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy how much kind of changes in this offseason. But to me, I would probably re-sign Reeder just because how much he means to the defense. You take him away, this run defense is atrocious. And like you're saying, he's not going to have like crazy stats, but he's one of those players. When you watch a game, the impact that he has in the Bengals defensive line, it's impossible not to see on the Bengals defense. And Higgins, I don't know. It's just going to be interesting if they're able to keep him, Chase, and Burrow. When you look at Chase specifically, Justin Jefferson will get a contract extension before Chase. So obviously Jefferson's going to get the highest paid wide receiver ever. You know Chase is going to want more money than Jefferson. So not only are we going to have the highest paid quarterback ever, we're going to have the highest paid wide receiver ever. And I know people might say, oh, well, Chase might take a pay cut. He's going to want at least one big payday. And I think he will be the highest paid wide receiver. Then maybe his next contract, he might take a pay cut. But you don't know how much money the Bengals maybe have left over. And when it comes to cap situations, with how much money Higgins would want, I'm kind of more so extend Reeder, tag Higgins, and just kind of see what happens there. And just because I don't want to lock Higgins up to a long-term deal. I like Higgins, but he's kind of been unreliable in the fact that when you look at the past couple of years, he's missed quite a few games. Like it's one of those things you don't really pay attention to, but like game here, a game here, a game here, and then all of a sudden in 3 years he's missed like 8 games or whatever. That's just the top of my head. I could be wrong, but it's just one of those things. I mean, even Thursday night, the biggest game of the season, and he's not able to go out there. I know Boyd's not really a huge impact player compared to what he used to be before Chase. I'm extending Boyd 100%. He's my favorite Bengal. You talked about the drops. It's stupid. Ridiculous. That's the thing that kind of aggravates me. T. Higgins will have a drop, and I'll be like, oh, he dropped it. Boyd has a drop. Oh, he sucks. I can't wait till Charlie Jones replaces him. There's no way the Bengals should re-sign him. Like the hypocrisy, it's very frustrating to me. All the stuff that Boyd has done for Cincinnati. I mean, Tyler Boyd has as many 1,000-yard seasons as Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's considered a top 5 receiver, top 7 receiver in the league. But people fail to ignore that. Oh, Tyler Boyd had a huge drop against the Ravens. He had a huge drop against Rams in the Super Bowl. That season when the Super Bowl, that was his only drop of the season. There's been games where T. Higgins has had more drops in one game than Tyler Boyd's had drops in a whole year. But people just don't talk about that. I don't understand the hypocrisy. Obviously, Higgins is better than Boyd. I'm not saying Boyd's better, but it's just, I don't get it. Like, Boyd is a great locker room guy. He's a great player. He is a reliable receiver. He's just had occasional drops, and when those drops happen, they come at, without a doubt, the worst opportune time for Cincinnati. If he dropped a pass against the Cardinals when the Bengals killed the Cardinals a month ago, would anybody be talking about that? No, it's just the significance of the drop when it happened. That just frustrates me. People talking crap about Boyd is stupid, and it really has. There's no reason to even be doing it. Like, he's brought so much joy to Bengal fans watching him play and stuff, and I don't know. That just annoys me a lot.
100%. I mean, and you can say the drop against the last game against the Texans cost us the game, and right, but if you really think about it, there's a billion plays in that game that were responsible for it. I know that's the cliche to say, And Boyd's drop was the most significant because it was an easy catch at the end that would have probably won it. But so much goes into that, and it is unfortunate that he had a bullseye put on him. But, and you see some people on Instagram, really bashing him and wanting him waived and stuff like that. And it's just, I just want to say to Bengals fans out there, don't be this fickle on your players. Like, if it's honestly, truthfully, Jordan, and you know how I feel about this player, if it's someone like Joseph Osai, I have like this much of a leash for Joseph Osai because I'm still upset at what he did against the Chiefs in that game. He's invisible on a regular basis. So someone like that, if they make a major mistake in a game, I can see you wanting to pull the fire alarm because he's done nothing for us. But Tyler Boyd has contributed to dozens of wins over the years, and has just been a gamer and a leader and one of the Bengal greats. Really, he's going to be one of the top 5 in all-time receptions. And yeah, he made a mistake, and technically it did lose us the game, but we're all there, right? Like, how many of you played basketball on a team and you scored 2 points and your team lost, right? No one was calling for your head. You know what I mean? Like, we should have a little more patience and tolerance for Tyler Boyd because he has been a Bengal great.
And people will point the finger at Boyd, but people won't point the finger at Burrow for having 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter. I love Burrow. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Bengal fans, every Bengal fan loves Burrow. But, I mean, when there's blame to be had, everybody just doesn't point the finger towards Burrow at times. Burrow played good for the most part, but he just seems like he does not get blamed from Bengal fans. I get that. But at the same time, you don't throw those 2 interceptions. If Jermaine Pratt just tackles them instead of trying to strip the ball, the field goal would be way, way farther, and maybe he doesn't make it. There was just so many things that people aren't talking about, but they're specifically kind of targeting Boyd, and it's just very frustrating to me. But kind of talking about Burrow's injury and just how much it sucks for Cincinnati with him getting injured Thursday against the Ravens. What injury do you think was worse? Which injury made you feel worse, Burrow's rookie year or Thursday?
Okay, it goes 2 ways here, because this year we really, like you said, this was one of our limited windows. I mean, the window's open forever, right? It's open for Joe Burrow's whole career. But this year it was like, we have everybody back. We have a lot of continuity. We brought all the starters back. The coaches are intact. Anarumo's going to be gone. Callahan's going to be gone eventually. So we had it all this year. And this year, really, and even you and I, Jordan, were talking before the season started, that we were like, this is a really good shot at a Super Bowl team. So this year is more devastating because we really were going somewhere. But as far as from a personal standpoint, when I saw it, we started seeing Joe Burrow flash in his rookie year, and we were like, oh my God, we have something special here. And when he went down with his knee, twisted like a crab leg, I hate, that's vulgar to say, but that hit me harder, because you're thinking, like, is this guy ever going to be the same?
100%. And I completely agree with you. And it's one of those things, like, we've had so much, completely agree there. So yeah, as a fan base, we can't be afraid to critique Burrow. And when you look at Burrow's rookie season, we just had so much hope, and it just, like, we had so much bad things as a fan base, really up to that point, so much we had to go through. It's like, oh, we finally have a quarterback. And then it's like, holy crap. Like, is he going to be the same again? We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, look at RG3. His rookie year, he was great. Never the same again. And it's like, I saw a poll, and it said, like, which injury do you feel like was worse, his rookie year or Thursday? And Thursday had like 70% of the votes. And I'm like, that's just so stupid to me. I just feel like, I don't know, Burrow's rookie year, it just felt, because you had the uncertainty of, you don't know what's going to happen with him, how he'll ever be the same. But then I looked at Thursday, and then we're kind of talking about it now, like, this was supposed to be our year. I've never picked the Bengals to win a Super Bowl. Like, I picked them to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. But heading into a season, I never picked us to be in it. This was the only year I've ever picked us to actually be in it. And then with Burrow's injury, that's pretty much out the window. So in a way, I can get Thursday a little bit, but I don't know. I just feel like his rookie year, it just, like, I mean, I cried when he got hurt. Like, that wasn't fun. I didn't cry Thursday, but if I was against the Steelers, maybe I would have. But
and it's a knee versus a hand too. A wrist.
Oh, yeah.
When you see a knee, you're like, oh man, this is bad. When you see him just shaking and flexing his hand, you're like, okay, he'll be all right. Even though it's surgery as well.
And then when he's on the ground against Washington, he's done for the year. And kind of like what you're saying with the hand, you're not totally sure he's even out that game just by
Right.
like looking at it. And it's just, I'm definitely going to say Burrow's rookie season. So with Jake Browning going to be the Bengals starter, we brought back Drew Plitt, who's been with the Bengals preseason team some. You have McCarron. Is there another quarterback you want the Bengals to go after before the season ends? Realistically, it won't probably happen though. But any quarterbacks?
And they don't do that sort of thing like that. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, even Carson Wentz is signed right now. I don't really even know who's out there anymore. It's like such a small pool. What, Joe Flacco? Like, I don't want someone like that either. It's just we're gonna have to ride with what we have. And it's unfortunate for Browning that the first game he comes in against a hot Ravens defense, and the next game he's playing the Steelers, who are winning games defensively. Like, that's a nightmare first two games. And you'd like to think, like, the Steelers can't score. All we need is a touchdown and a couple field goals and we'll beat them. Yeah, but they're going to do everything they can to hit him so many times and force him into fumbles and mistakes and interceptions. It's going to be a little bit of a nightmare. And if he can hang through that game and stay competitive, I'll feel better about him. And I like what Browning's been saying in his press conferences, or at least the one where he does believe in himself. Like that, I can't say it gave me full confidence, because here's the other problem. I know I'm going around on a million things, but my mind is racing on this topic because this is the first time I'm talking about it. But you have to remember, I want Browning to succeed, and he feels he can. The coaching staff believes in him. I think the players, at least publicly, believe in him. But remember in the preseason, we couldn't score an offensive touchdown for like a couple games. And he was in there against preseason guys, not a starting Steelers defense, not a starting Ravens defense, not even a starting Jacksonville defense, which is coming up on the horizon. So I'm worried about that. And McCarron, he gave us a great story back in 2015 when he came in and almost beat the Steelers, one of the most infamous games of all time. But he was in, what was it? The Arena League? I think it was the Arena League recently.
XFL, something like that.
XFL, yes, exactly. So if you could play ball as a quarterback, you're going to be on an NFL roster. You're not going to be in the XFL, no matter who you are, where you are. So I'm worried about him. But if Browning has a hard time, maybe we throw it up in the air and just put McCarron in and see. But either way, it's going to be rough. Like, we could win. Maybe we beat Pittsburgh, and now we're back in the top 7 in the conference, and maybe we beat the Vikings. Maybe whatever, all the what ifs. But maybe we do scratch out enough wins to make the playoffs. And I sound like I'm tripping because I almost don't believe it myself, but I just so badly want to believe it. We're such a talented team. If they could just put Browning in a position to succeed, but it goes so much beyond that, because in addition to the physical skill, you need to have the mental capacity to read defenses and change plays and, just exactly what Burrow does. And I just don't know if Browning is there yet. But just say on a miracle we do make the playoffs. Now what? You're going to go into Baltimore and win? We saw we couldn't do that this game. You're going to, all right, say ultimately we just beat everybody. We're going to go into Arrowhead and beat Mahomes to make the Super Bowl. Like, I know it sucks, and I hate to be like that, and I'm always going to be optimistic. But even if we scratch out a couple wins and make the playoffs, it's just too hard to make the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal. And then I guess we have to decide, what is our goal? What is our goal? Is our goal, Jordan, just to watch this team and have fun watching them? Because I guess that's the enjoyment I'm going to get. I'm not going to phone it in. I'm not going to vote for us to tank, because you don't want to watch your team lose. That's not fun. And especially when you have 5 wins, it's not like you're going to pick in the top 5 in the draft. So win as many games as you can. Backdoor a playoff thing. I mean, anything can happen, but ultimately our goal was the Super Bowl, and everybody's goal is the Super Bowl, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But I do say one thing out there to Jake Browning, and I know you have connections. If you could get word out to him, Jordan, this is your shot. This is what you do this for. If you want to just be an obscure backup quarterback who doesn't make a ton of money and just phase away, then you could take that route. But if you want to take it by the reins and say, I have a phenomenal roster around me, I was successful in college, I'm going to do everything I can to win and be a great quarterback. It's in front of you. Jake Browning, you could be Tom Brady right now. Not to that level, but you could be Kurt Warner right now. That's a better one. You're coming in for a guy who's the best in the league, and this is your opportunity now. You take it or you don't take it. You take it now, you change your life forever, and you change our lives forever. You don't take it now, and you fade into obscurity. And I know that's a lot of pressure, but that's the reality. So that's my statement on it. First time I'm saying this out loud. I got to use this on my podcast tomorrow because it's good. But that's how I feel, Jordan, in a nutshell about the whole situation.
I'm probably going to have to clip that and just send it to you, and you can put that in your podcast because that was pretty good.
Good, less work for me.
I can't top that. I'm not even going to act like I can top that. But completely agree. When you look at Browning, you want to be remembered as a guy who can, 5 years from now, nobody remember, or 5 years from now, holy crap, Browning took us to the AFC Championship game. Browning took us to the Super Bowl. And it's one of those things you want to believe in him. And like I said, I think he played better than people gave him credit for Thursday. It was just the emotional, drop of it all. People just weren't really into the game. And I get it once Burrow got hurt. But, and like you said at the beginning of the year, this offense was atrocious with Burrow, with Jake Browning. I mean, there's a significant drop-off. That's probably going to be the offense. And it sucks to think that way, but we kind of have to be realistic and stuff. If this offense couldn't get going with Burrow, what's to think that this offense would get going with Browning? But like I said, he played better than people gave him credit for. And it's one of those things, realistically, the Bengals, I don't think they're going to go after another quarterback. And it sucks because they didn't go after a quarterback when it was just Burrow and Browning. I don't think they're going to go after a quarterback now when the season's not really looking good for Cincinnati. When you were a Super Bowl contender and Super Bowl favorite, some said you didn't get a backup quarterback to help your team. Burrow went down. The odds of them doing that now are pretty much zero. But for the sake of it, I hope this happens. Burrow played at Athens. Why not replace a Athens quarterback with another Athens quarterback? Get Nathan Rourke. I don't like Ohio. I'm a Marshall fan, but every time Ohio played Marshall, Rourke would absolutely torture Marshall's defense. He had 25 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions last year in the CFL. He also had 300 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. He is super, super good. I think he's on the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad right now. He had one of the most remarkable and best plays of the preseason this year when he escaped multiple sacks against Dallas and threw a touchdown. In Bengals standards, he kind of reminds me of Jeff Driscoll, but he's much, much, much better. He's a way better passer. I think he's a better athlete. But I wouldn't mind that at all. I would actually really, really like that. But it's just one of those things. He has no regular season experience, and that's one of those things. If you're going to get a quarterback, realistically, you're probably going to get somebody who has experience to kind of help mentor Browning, or Browning maybe goes out and is injured a little bit. You at least have somebody who has somewhat NFL regular season experience, but it's not going to happen. But I would love, love, love it if they got Nathan Rourke. I know a couple other Bengal pages like Bengals NFL on Instagram. He loves OU, and he would love that too. But realistically, it probably won't end up happening.
Hey, that's thinking out of the box. That's someone who's not even on my radar. So I'm going to defer to you on that. And if you believe, I believe.
Let's see here. What are you looking to evaluate from the team and coaches for the rest of the season? Kind of just see how everybody plays. They're I'm trying to how to describe it. I just like how they play, if they play hard and stuff like that. And kind of like when you look at Browning, his touchdown towards the end, I know players weren't really into the touchdown. You kind of tell Chase just walks to the sideline. I get that to a degree, but you kind of have to – I know the game's over with, but you have to kind of boost up his confidence because he's going to be the quarterback that you're playing with for pretty much the rest of the season. You can't have a crappy attitude and stuff. You got to kind of get behind Browning, support him and stuff like that. Not necessarily, evaluating from the team, but just kind of like the kind of help Browning along the way because he has no experience up until Thursday. Players like Chase, Boyd, Higgins, Mixon, everybody like that kind of has to rally behind Browning, boost his confidence some, and kind of their attitudes, I don't know, kind of have to be like not one of those things that, oh, we're never going to lose, stuff like that. It's not really evaluating on the field, but kind of evaluating, just kind of boosting Browning's confidence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it does make sense. And the reality is, it was just like getting punched in the face and you're in a daze. That's really what happened to everybody on the roster. Like you saw, yeah, Jamar Chase wasn't excited about the touchdown. The team was flat as soon as they knew that Burrow was out, and it was significant. So that's just human nature, to just be shocked by the immediate trauma that's hit you. But they're going to be backing them against the Steelers. Everyone's going to be back to normal, jacked up, believe, at least drinking the Kool-Aid for that game and saying, all right, this is the Browning era right now. Let's do it. And then, ultimately, if he has a really bad game and shows that he can't do it on this level, we're going to hit another downward swing. But at least going into the Steelers game, I know that the team is going to be jacked up, definitely. And as far as evaluating players, I think, we love our roster. There's not many players that we're not really thinking about not bringing back. I mean, Irv Smith, he's probably done as a Bengal after this year. I'd like to think they're going to be looking elsewhere for Jonah's replacement, but the team, he's one of those, like you said before, the coaches love him way more than the fan base does. And, they know better than us. They see him every day. They watch more intricate film than we do. So I don't know, but, I would say that he's up for evaluation, and Osai is up for evaluation. Zach Carter, young player, but third round pick. I guess you stick with him, but I would say Osai and Jonah and Irv Smith are three guys immediately that you think about. Do we really want these guys back next year? Everybody else, I think we're good. We just added a couple new players. Look at what we're doing in the secondary right now. Battle looks like he's going to work out. I mean, Nick Scott's another one maybe on the bubble, but Battle's going to work out. I'm loving the way that DJ Turner's playing right now. Dax Hill, biggest surprise of the year. And then you have Cam Taylor-Britt turning into one of the stars of the league. So that's great to have that secondary of the future. And you want to see how they progress. You want to see, is Battle ready to become the full-time starter? I think Turner's going to be ready to replace Awuzie. So that's another big contract that you can get rid of. And that's what they do, right? You figure they brought in Turner to eventually not have to pay Awuzie $8+ million a year or whatever they're paying him. And you figured they brought in Miles Murphy so they wouldn't have to, so they could almost have the changing of the guard at defensive end. The Miles Murphy experiment hasn't worked out that well yet. It's still very early. I'm just not liking what I've seen. He got blocked by Noah Brown on a touchdown run against the Texans, but I don't want to be on record bashing this guy after 10 NFL games. I know I'm going on a tangent, but yes, as far as evaluating players, those are the things that you're evaluating. The coaching staff comes back if they want to come back. Callahan's been great. Anarumo's phenomenal. Darren Simmons is going nowhere. And then all the individual positional coaches, Casey's doing great. Hobby's doing great. Troy Walters, they all have everybody going there. So there's not much evaluation in my book going on right now, except those couple players I mentioned.
You mentioned Murphy. I just don't like that pick. I don't dislike the player. I just dislike the pick. It just makes no sense, because why would you try to replace Hendrickson and Hubbard? You take one out, the defense is not as good. You take both out, defense, you're not getting any sacks, you're not getting any tackles whatsoever. And there's just better players available. Murphy, some people say he's the best player available. I don't think he was a top 3 best player available. But you look at Osai, holy crap. Without a doubt, the most disappointing Bengal player. I don't think it's close. Like Irv Smith Jr., his expectations were maybe get 400, 500 yards, whatever. He's not been good. But Osai, I cannot believe how bad he's been this year. I thought he had potential to have a breakout season,
Yeah, we all did. Especially the way he played at the end of last year, even though he made that crucial mistake. It was like, all right, this guy's on the upswing. I mean, Jordan, he's invisible in there on a down-and-down basis. I'm just seeing him just blocked out of the play every time, losing his contain on the end, and he just plays with all aggression and no field awareness.
And everybody talks about the penalty against the Chiefs, but he had his game of his life in that game, but people don't talk about that. So he has the game of his life.
I know.
He's, emotional in the post-game conference in the AFC Championship game. You think he's going to come back hungry, want to prove everybody wrong. He's going to have a great year. be the biggest surprise of Cincinnati so far, like maybe have 6, 8 sacks. I thought he was going to have 6 or 8 sacks this year. I don't think he has a single one.
No,
Honestly, I could be wrong. I've not looked at it. I don't
he
know if he
doesn't.
has 6 tackles. Like,
I know.
he's just nowhere to be seen. It's like he's doing his best impersonation of Waldo. You can't find him at all. Like, he's doing absolutely nothing on defense. But, yeah, I mean, it's just somebody else who, like, we love to talk about the Higgins, Reader, people like that signing, but the little stuff that goes side, like, and the little stuff matters when you're a Super Bowl contending team because you have to have that, depth and experience and stuff like that. And it's just, there's so many uncertainties. And I know I keep saying that, but it's just, I mean, there is, and it's very alarming, the uncertainties with Cincinnati's upcoming offseason. I feel like a lot of it kind of has to determine how many games they'll win for the rest of the season. And whether if they'll tank or not, I mean, not tank, but maybe not necessarily win many games. If they have a top 10 pick, if they have maybe the 18th pick, a lot determines, I feel like, on where they pick in the draft. So the fan base is absolutely divided. I did a poll that had over 1,200 votes. 55% of people said we should tank. I know we've already kind of talked about this, but I want to hear your kind of thoughts on it. And you tell people, do you think the Bengals should tank to get a better draft pick?
No, because what happens in the draft? Look at Zach Wilson, pick number 2 in the draft. Like, you never know. Hey, look at Myles Murphy, best player available. We're getting the steal at defensive end at the end of the draft. The draft is a crapshoot, and not to be morbid, but like, what if you're not here? What if you die? Like, I know we're all young and healthy and whatnot, but like, what if this is your last year on the planet? Do you want your last year on the planet to be the Bengals just losing out in like pathetic fashion for the rest of the season? I don't know. I just think about it like that. I want them to win every game all the time because I love watching a Bengal game. I prefer it to anything else in the world. Is my favorite thing to do. And I want it to be a positive experience. I want them to win. I don't care what we're going to pick 10th or we're going to pick 15th or 20th. It's all the crapshoot. You don't know who's going to pan out. Just let me, from a personal standpoint, let me enjoy my Sundays with a Bengal win as opposed to, oh, please let us lose. I don't care. This is a waste. I might not be here next year. Nothing's guaranteed in life. So while I'm here, make me happy and let the Bengals win as many games as possible. That's where I'm at with it. I don't believe in tanking. And tanking with 5 wins right now, we're still going to end up with 6, 7 wins, and that's not going to put you where you want to be. And no, give me Bengal. The only game, Jordan, in my life, there was only one time, and I've been watching the Bengals since 76. I know that makes me sound old. I know I don't look it, but I've been a Bengals fan since 76. I have seen every game since 92, with a couple small exceptions of like the VCR didn't tape back in the old days, whatever. I'm rambling. But the only game I ever wanted them to lose was the Miami game that went into overtime with the Tyler Eifert touchdown. And like, we were just doing everything we could to come back, this miracle comeback, a successful onside kick. And the loser of that game was getting Joe Burrow. That was the only game ever. And I was ashamed at myself for wanting them to lose, but that was the only time ever. And I will probably never feel that way again. And certainly not in 2023.
That's the way I was. It's one of those things, kind of going off topic. I think that's the biggest what if in Bengals history. Because it's like, I know it's debatable when you look at like the early 80s and stuff. I wasn't alive back then, but if the Bengals don't win that, if the Bengals win that game, they don't get the number 1 pick. They don't get Burrow. We have no idea what this roster right now, who the quarterback is. Taylor might even be the coach, but with tanking, when Burrow got hurt and it was announced he was done for the year, I'm like, let's tank. And then more I thought about it, I just don't get it. You're 5-6 right now. You lose every single game. You're going to have what? The 7th pick? Even if you lose every single game, you might have the 6th, 7th pick. That's not even a top 5 pick. Who are you going to draft? Like, this Bengals team, drafting-wise, is not as great as people think, in my opinion. Okay, you're going to draft an offensive lineman? When's the last time you developed an offensive lineman? You're going to draft a tight end, Brock Bowers? What have first-round tight ends done in the draft the past decade? Absolutely nothing. Are you going to draft a potential wide receiver replacement for Higgins? You're cashing in on things that haven't happened yet, and there's too much of a risk. Are you going to you're going to tank and get a receiver, but that receiver might not be good. And what if Higgins is willing to take a pay cut? Oh, you just tanked for nothing. And it's like you have to change your whole draft evaluation. You don't know who you're going to draft because with the players in free agent who might come back, might not come back when it comes to free agents. And then you look at the fact that Higgins, Boyd, Reeder, this is their final year of the contract before they become free agents in a couple months. Do you want to be their last potential time being in the Bengals and their last year in the Bengals under contract tanking? That's going to have a sour taste in their mouth, and you're not going to want to re-sign if you're spending the whole rest of the season tanking when they're playing for a contract. They're playing to win games. They're playing to your franchise to try to win a Super Bowl, but instead you're tanking and just losing and basically banking on the draft pick that's going to replace them pans out well when this team has a bad history of draft picks. And it makes no sense. It's not worth the risk. People say, well, if we're last in the division, we get an easier schedule. Okay, we might be last in the division. That doesn't mean we tank. Like, every single team in the AFC North is good. We lose that game. Even if Burrow plays this Sunday, right now we're still last in the division. This division is tough. Just because we're last doesn't mean this team is bad, doesn't mean it's tanking. It's just one of those things. There's way more negatives than positives. I just don't buy into it at all. You're banking on stuff that hasn't happened yet. And if you tank, there's even more uncertainties. We've already talked about there's enough already. Don't cause yourself more issues by having more uncertainties and more question marks heading into the offseason when just try to win games. It's that simple. Like you said, if you have a year to live, you want to watch the Bengals to win. You don't watch them. You don't want to watch them and be like, oh, we're tank, and be like, oh, I guess we'll never know what happened if we got that draft pick or not. And if he panned out, like seriously, do not tank. It's stupid. It's pointless. Burrow was the rare exception because he was a franchise quarterback like we've never seen coming out of college, one of the best quarterback prospects ever. It's not like we're getting the first pick, and it's not like we're going to have somebody who changes our franchise like Burrow. We have that guy. So there's no point in doing it. I just tanking is not a good decision in my opinion.
Yeah, we're gonna just not enjoy the rest of the season and then get another offensive lineman that may or may not pan out, like you said, like a whole line of them. It's not worth it. Like, you approached it in a more mature aspect than I did. You approached it from an organizational standpoint, which I agree with. You know, you don't want to create uncertainty. You don't want to have these veteran players lose faith in the organization. Those are the big things. I was really presenting it from a personal view. Like, no, I'm having too much fun with this. Don't lose games, because I don't like losing games. But anyway, great points, Jordan, for real.
But it's just one of those things. It's another thing that Bengal fans are kind of divided on. I've seen other polls. They're about 50 to 55% Bengal fans wanting Cincinnati to tank. It's just not worth the risk, in my opinion. There's too many risky things to go into it. I mean, like you said, we're going to draft another Miles Murphy. We're going to draft somebody to be a replacement, let's say for Higgins or Reeder. But, he's a project player, and he's going to play in 2 years. So you're banking on somebody in this upcoming draft, and then you're banking on 2 years when he has his potential when he's ready to start.
And listen to this: David Klingler, Achilles Smith, Peter Warwick had his highs and lows, John Ross, Darquez Denard, I don't know, I'm just Billy Price, give me the worst of all time, possibly non-quarterback, Cedric Ogbuehi. Like, think about all that, like, first round picks aren't always going to work out. So what? We want to move up 7 slots from where we were going to be, and to do that, we're just going to be miserable for the rest of the season. It's just not worth it to me.
And even if you get somebody like a TJ Watt or a Myles Garrett caliber player, I mean, that's great. That's good for your defense. But one player in defense could not have a huge trajectory on your franchise. Like, yes, you have Burrow, you have Chase, you have whoever might be under contract at that point. But that's one player. You might as well have a couple of good players, and you already have those set-in-stone players who have experience, who already know the system. Everybody loves them. They're fan favorites, guys like Reeder and Higgins. And with the offensive lineman, I think we've talked about this before. When's the last time the Bengals have developed a halfway decent offensive lineman? 10, 12 years? I mean,
you go back to Levi Jones and Willie Anderson era. Like, I can't even think of another one, really. And Stacey Andrews, I don't know, but like, that's really going back. Who recently? There's no one on the Volson, I guess, right? He's he's not lighting it up, but we think he's working out. But no, you're 100% right.
And like I've seen people say, oh, we should get a Joe Alt. I think it's the offensive lineman from Notre Dame. I've not followed the draft much this season. I'm not even going to act like I have, but Alt's one of the best offensive linemen. And it's like, oh, we should get him. Why? Like, we have offensive linemen. They're better than people get credit for. People say, oh, Burrow, he's hurt. The offensive line sucks. The offensive line is better than people think. People just say that because they're casuals and they just love to complain and love to point the finger at the offensive line. You're not going to get the offensive line better if you can't develop one. It's not a coincidence when you look at Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, or Orlando Brown. They're all outside. They're all outsiders. They were all free agents. We have to sign offensive linemen because we cannot develop an offensive lineman to save our life. Obuehi, Jake Fisher, Billy Price. I mean, they all suck. Like, we should not be banking on something like this. And then maybe it's not offensive lineman. Maybe it's tight end. Well, I mean, Brock Bowers, he's a generational prospect at tight end. We hear this every couple of years. Kyle Pitts, he's going to be great. He was drafted before Chase.
I know.
Like, that's insane. He's not a top 10 tight end, maybe? Like, I know
the other guy over there is getting as much action as him. I forget his name, but he's a veteran.
It's absolutely crazy. And well, maybe it's wide receiver. I will say wide receivers normally have worked out well for Cincinnati, but you're banking on a player who could be fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth pick overall to fill in the void of T. Higgins already. That's a lot of responsibility for a guy who's never played a snap. And I know I'm kind of getting the point across, but it just makes no freaking sense. Like,
and what's the wish list, really? All right, so you want a top 10 pick. What do we really need? All right, maybe a right tackle, maybe a tight end, like you mentioned. Although Tanner Hudson's been playing great. You always need pass rushers, but I mean, if you just take the starters, Hendrickson and Hubbard are fine. The linebackers are great. The secondary is young and up and coming. We have plenty of receivers. We have more running. We can't even get Chris Evans in the lineup. You know what? My wish list for the Bengals: right tackle and backup quarterback. I'll even go with Hudson as the tight end and pick someone third, fourth round at this point. But like, you know what I mean? Like when we're saying tank, draft pick, what do we really want? So you just want to replace Jonas? So let's blow the last 7 games.
I mean, it makes no sense. Like I don't like Williams. I've said before, he's one of my least favorite Bengals. But it's not worth it to do that when, let's say, you get the 8th pick, and then the Titans have the 12th pick, and then they trade up in front of you to get your player. Well, crap. We effed up for nothing. Like it doesn't make sense. But like you said, backup quarterback, maybe right tackle. In my opinion, I've said it a couple of times, 3 most important positions: quarterback, backup quarterback, and middle linebacker. We have Burrow. We have, Logan Wilson. We have Pratt. We just look for that backup quarterback, but you're not going to find that, obviously, in the first round. You're not going to – this is a Bengals team who this past season, even the year before, when it comes about the 3rd and 4th round, we're drafting players who really have – not really much room on this team. Joseph Asai was a 3rd-round pick. He's playing like crap. He's not getting much playing time. If that's a 3rd-round pick, what's a 1st-round pick going to do? Like, there's not much room on this team for improvements. So even if you get a great guy, I mean, Myles Murphy was a 1st-round pick. He's playing 10 snaps a game,
right?
If that. And I know he's a project player, but even if you don't tank, like, it just goes to back how good this Bengals roster is, that you're having to draft players in the hopes of them being good 2 years from now, banking on the fact that, hopefully he's good. And when Hendrickson, one of the best edge rushers in the league, is off Cincinnati, then Murphy's going to try to fill that void. And that's kind of why I didn't like the Murphy pick. Not trying to go back to that, but it's just like you're banking on something that 2 years from now, this roster or 2 years from now is going to be completely different. So why just get somebody now, or maybe even trade the pick to get an established guy? But
yeah, I mean, was Laporta available when we picked? I think he was. Like
he was a 2nd-round pick. Yeah.
Imagine the impact that he would have made on this roster. Would have been far more than Myles Murphy, like you said, with his 10 snaps.
Nolan Smith from the Eagles, Laporta, Michael Mayer, who went to the Raiders. Joey Porter Jr., of course, Pittsburgh
Yes.
got him. I mean, Darnell Washington was there, but at the time he was kind of expected to go in that range. He dropped to the third round. He was somebody maybe in the second round I would not have been against, but with them getting Turner, it turned out pretty good. But
Yes.
even trading back, like Billy Price, I'm still mad about that. Like that frustrates me because that was a reach. Frank Ragnow, the top center from Arkansas, was drafted to the Lions. One pick before Cincinnati, the Bengals panicked. And oh crap, we got to get Billy Price. It was a
I know.
terrible pick. It was a reach. You could have traded back and got an extra second or third round pick. You could have used that to get somebody who could help your roster. I know I'm rambling. I know I'm talking about a draft pick from like 6-7 years ago, but I don't know. It's frustrating because this tanking idea, we're both on an agreement. It just is not a good idea whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not what I want to do.
Hunter Morris, would Murphy be more of a replacement than would Murphy be more of a Hubbard replacement? See, I don't know because I would say it's kind of more Hendrickson because when you look at Hendrickson, he was expected to be a free agent up this upcoming offseason, but the Bengals extended him to a 1-year deal. Hubbard just signed an extension a year or two ago, I believe for 4 years for 40 or something like that. So when at that point, you're kind of the expectation is that he's going to replace Hendrickson. And that I think that's one of the reasons why they maybe signed Hendrickson to a 1-year extension before the season started. Maybe they didn't really like what they saw in Murphy yet. Maybe he was kind of more raw as a player. Maybe wasn't there yet. So that's why I went ahead and gave him a one more year on his deal. But I kind of think it was more Hendrickson than Hubbard, even though I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, because he's more of a pass rusher. Like Hubbard does get his sacks and has grown into a better pass rusher, but he's like that run defensive end. And it looks like they wanted, yes, they truthfully, Hunter, I believe that they wanted Murphy to replace Hendrickson just by the same token how they wanted DJ Turner to replace Awuzie. So you have a guy on a second-round draft pick deal replacing an $8 million guy. And I don't know, Hendrickson is probably like 16 million, but now you're getting that in Murphy for much less than that. I think that was the mindset there, but it doesn't look like he's going to be the guy to be able to replace him. You would have seen some light go on by now. And I believe that Hubbard and Hendrickson are signed through 25. So at least we don't have to worry about that until 25 at this point. So we're in a good spot there. But yeah, I think it was Murphy to replace the pass rusher, not the run defensive end.
But yeah, I mean, when you look at Hubbard, Hubbard and Hendrickson, they're both players who don't. I mean, even DJ Reader, they're players who just don't really get the credit they deserve. I mean, Reader is one of the best defense tackles in the league. Hendrickson is constantly being slept on. He's an elite edge rusher.
Yes.
He's elite at getting the quarterback. Hubbard, he's not going to get the quarterback as much, but he is one of the best run stopping edge rushers in the league. Like the thing that's so great about him is that their specialty is different, and that's what makes them so great. You pass the ball, how can Hendrickson go at you? You run the ball. We got Hubbard, and we have Reader who can open up a gap for a linebacker to come in and get you. So It's like one of those things. They have a little bit of everything on this defense. I think that's part of the reason the defense hasn't been as good this year compared to last year, but that's part of the reason why the defense, I think, clicks so well is because they have a little variety of everything that makes it work so well.
Yeah, and BJ Hill is having a great season, his best year. Tupou has been a little banged up, but he's solid when he comes in. There's a lot. It's just the backup defensive ends. Like when Hendrickson comes out of the game, the pass rush absolutely disappears, and then you see him starting to blitz Dax Hill and Battle and Hilton. They start getting a little more desperate, and other teams are picking up on that, to be honest with you.
And when you're looking at Cincinnati, we're currently 5-6, and it sucks because I don't think anybody really thought we were going to be in this position, even before Burrow getting hurt. Being 5-6 in the first 11 games is atrocious, especially with the expectations for the Bengals heading into the season. But when you're looking at Cincinnati, kind of switching gears about their schedule, when you look at their schedule, it is extremely tough, and that's what makes me worried about how many wins this Bengals team will get for the rest of the season. So this upcoming Sunday, we take on the Steelers. The Steelers, I believe, are 6-4. Monday night, the following week, in Jacksonville. Then we host the Colts. Then we host the Minnesota Vikings. in Pittsburgh on Christmas weekend, in Arrowhead the following week, and we host the Cleveland Browns. The schedule is brutal, like I mentioned. Every single one of these teams are 500 or better. The Vikings, when you look at this, kind of schedule here, like, the Vikings, that could be a win. The Vikings, I think they've won like 6 straight now. They've not lost since Justin Jefferson's been hurt, which is insane.
Although last night, they took the loss night against Denver.
Yep. Forgot about that. I fell asleep. I completely forgot about that.
I lost money on it. That's why I was awake. So,
I hate the Steelers so much, but they're good. I'll give them credit. I lost money on them. It's like I'm glad they lost, but I would like some cash too. It's one of those like deals that I don't know. They lost and the Chargers lost. I thought for sure the Chargers beat the Packers. No way Herbert would lose the Packers and Jordan Love. But when you're looking at the Bengals schedule, so we take on Pittsburgh. See, this is annoying because we can beat Pittsburgh. If Burrow plays, I think we beat Pittsburgh by a large margin. This game will be closer, I think, than people realize. I might sound stupid or insane. The way Kenny Pickett has played this year, the Bengals might have the better quarterback in this game. And I know I might sound crazy. A guy who has no NFL starts in his career against a guy who was a first-round pick just a year or so ago, and a guy who's led the Steelers to a 6-4 record this year. Kenny Pickett is terrible. He's one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. With Browning, he played good Thursday. The one thing I do like about Browning is with him not playing much, teams don't really have as much film on Browning compared to guys like Burrow. Burrow, it's hard for a defense to kind of know what Burrow's going to do because it's unpredictability. That's what makes him so good. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Browning isn't at that level, but with him not having as much experience, teams might not really know his tendencies and stuff like that. So that's one good thing for Cincinnati when it comes to playing good defenses and good teams like Pittsburgh, Browns, some of these other teams. But when you look at Pittsburgh this upcoming Sunday, their defense is so freaking good. And that's what concerns me. If this was a average defense, I think we can win this game. I still think we might win this game, but I don't know. Like, even when the Bengals last season, when they had Burrow, they lost the opening game to Pittsburgh, and they almost lost the second game to Pittsburgh last year as well. I'm going to say we take screw it. I'll say we win this game because we're going to be ticked off because Burrow's out. But, okay, so that's 6-6. The following week in Jacksonville, that's going to be a tough environment. Jacksonville, I don't think they're as good as their record indicates. Like, I think they're 7-3, 7-4, something like that right now. I don't think they're that great, but I still think Cincinnati will probably lose that game against Jacksonville. The Colts, I think that's a winnable game. So let's say that's 7-7. So at that point, 7-7. That's after our next 3 games. So
wait, we're no, Jordan. You know what? We're 5-5 right now. So,
oh crap, yeah.
No, but that's all right. That's all right. So still, you're saying 6-5, 6-6. Now the Colts Vikings. Is that 7-6, 8-6, or is that 7-7? 7-7. Steelers, or is that 6-8?
God, too many numbers.
I know.
So Steelers, let's say that's a win. That's 6-5. Jacksonville, that's a loss. That's 6-6. Colts, I'll say that's a win. That's 7-6. Vikings, that's 7-7. Pittsburgh, 7-8. Chiefs, 7-9.
Wow.
The Browns, I want to say probably. Let's say we win that game. So 7-10. And wait, is that right? Did I? All right, 7-10. I'm getting confused with these numbers. I can't do it out loud. I'm not good with numbers at all. 7-10, and that's one of those things. Like, you're looking at the Bengals schedule. So like, have you looked at the Bengals schedule for the rest of the way? Is that kind of what you're looking at here, the 7-10, or what are you kind of looking at here?
We have 5 wins right now. I mean, you have to say we're going to split with Pittsburgh at best, unfortunately, even though we're a better team and we should sweep them. So, like, I'm saying, like, Pittsburgh, Colts, and Vikings are all very solid potential wins. But I don't know if you're beating the Chiefs there. We have a hard time with the Browns. No matter, maybe we get the better of the rookie quarterback. I mean, no, it's scary. I mean, Jacksonville isn't as good as their record, but every one of these teams, I mean, Pittsburgh brings the great defense. Jacksonville's hot right now. The Colts have a good running game. Vikings came out of nowhere. You don't know what they're going to be. Chiefs are the best team in the AFC right now, unfortunately. And the Browns are a tough matchup for us. So, yeah, I mean, 7-10 is entirely possible. 9-8 is possible. I don't know if I see it more than that, unfortunately. But as a Bengal fan, let's hope for 12-5.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned yesterday losing money on the Vikings. I bet a crap ton of money we're going to win the division this year. That's not like a ton. That's not really looking too well. So it made it even worse Thursday. Thursday was just terrible all around. But let's see here. So can you reply to my earlier question about Lou and the defense? Let's see here. Trying to find it. I think this is it. I'm not saying he should be fired at all. Crap. Wrong button. Not saying he should be fired at all, but do you think we'll ever become better than a it feels like it started to catch up on us this season. I don't know. It's one of those things. Anarumo's great. He gets the most out of his players. The defense, I feel like they should be better, but I don't think he should be fired. He's one of those guys who, I don't know, coaches sometimes just have a bad year. I mean, Anarumo has been one of the best defense coordinators in the league, and maybe teams are starting to kind of pick up on it a little bit, maybe his tendencies and what he does like to do, so they do the opposite. But, I mean, I still think he's one of the best defense coordinators in the league, and I still think he's gone this year. Like, it sucks because even before free agency happened, before we signed Orlando Brown, before we signed anybody, us retaining Anarumo, I thought that was 100%. I don't care what happens. That's an automatic win in the offseason. And the fact that we can't, with Anarumo staying, Callahan staying, we can't really, I'm not necessarily show for that, but can't get the full potential of it with them more likely being their last season. But I don't know. It's just very interesting.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the bend don't break though. Really, like I'll lead the league in yardage given up if we can, keep them to field goals and not scoring. And I mean, think about it. We're leading the league in turnover differential. I think the second half adjustments have been great. We were on that great run of winning a whole bunch of games in a row. We missed a lot of tackles against the Texans. Something happened that game. I don't know. There was guys wide open. It's just that was a bad game. And I don't know if it was execution with the missed tackles and missed assignments, or if we got outcoached. Probably a little bit of both, but Anarumo has not gotten outcoached much. The Ravens game, you just have to throw that out the window. I'm not even rewatching that game because I'm so disgusted by it. But like once Burrow was out of the game, everything went out the window. So even Belichick wasn't going to get that defense to bring us back into that game because everyone's spirit was destroyed. But prior to that, what did we win? 4 in a row? Like we were the hottest team in the league. So we had a little bit of a breakdown against the Texans. They had a great scheme and a hot quarterback. And the Ravens game, like I said, we were heartbroken over Burrow. So I don't think Anarumo's done a bad job at all. I think he's one of the best still, and we're going to have a very hard time keeping him.
And with the bend don't break, it's one of those things you don't really want to change anything. Like even early on, the defense struggled, but I think it had more to do with the offense struggling. Like if your offense sucks, you want to have a 3 and out. The defense, if they were on the field for 5 minutes, the offense is 3 and out. You're on the field the whole game. Like no matter how good your defense is, you're going to have to give up points eventually. And it's one of those things. I feel like when the offense struggles, the defense is going to probably be more tend to struggle. And you kind of see the defense, like if they give up a big play, like, oh, this defense sucks. How can we give up this huge play? How can we give up so many points? But it goes back to your offense. When you notice the Bengals offense, when they started to get going, sort of the defense, they feed off one another. And when you look at the early in the year, the Bengals defense couldn't really feed off the offense because there was no offense. We just could not get it going at all. But like you said, not really a bend don't break thing, and you just kind of stay to your game plan and stuff, even if you're losing, because you don't want to like switch up a game plan. Then the offense gets going and you switch your game plan and stuff. There's too many like potential risk of it and stuff. But let's see, Jack Gamer, don't even sound crazy. Steelers suck. Tomlin doing all the work. I think that was with me. I think that was with me saying Browning was potentially better than Pickett. So appreciate you going out of your way. I like Lou, by the way. Just wanted your all's take. Yeah, I think Anarumo is. I think he's one of the best defense coordinators in the league. And it sucks because I mean he's gone after this year. Like this was our last year. That was another reason why I thought it was our year. This is our last year. Both our coordinators are going to be together, and we have so many players free agents, and now it's pretty much all gone. And that just it's so frustrating. Let's see here. Hunter Morse, defense is tough to stay consistent year after year. And it is, especially when you have Nick Scott and Jordan Battle or some of those guys in the secondary. Battle's been playing good. Nick Scott hasn't been playing good. But when you look at Jesse Bates and Von Bell, I think they're number 2 and 3 when it comes to safeties the last 3 seasons and most snaps. And you're replacing both those guys, there is going to be at least at some point in the season a drop-off in production when it comes to losing players like that. But the defense, I mean, it's been inconsistent. It's been good, but not as good as last year. I don't really think many Bengal fans thought this defense was going to be better than last year, simply because, I mean, we lost 2 starters in the secondary with Bates and Bell. Those were big contributors to our defense, but the defense still has been all right this season. Battle looks to be pretty good. That's something I am interested in. At what point is he going to be starting against Nick Scott? Nick Scott has looked pretty bad this year, and that's something, let's say, when the Bengals are out of contention of the playoffs, or maybe they want to do it early, who knows? Give Jordan Battle some more snaps, because I think he's just slowly transitioning more into this Bengals defense. And before the season's over, I think he'll be the starter. Honestly, heading into the year, I thought he was going to be a starter coming out of our bye week. Kind of surprised he's not the starter yet.
You could see the ratio changing, though. You see him getting more and Scott getting less, and I think we're going to see that as the season goes by, and eventually he will be the starter. And Nick Scott wasn't having a horrible year. He had a rough first couple games, but then that Texans game was just a public nightmare, so everyone's really down on him. But I would like to see Battle at least split time with him. Yeah.
That's my point, though. We're overly reliant on turnovers, but they are on the field a lot, so I feel like this season, that's one thing I've been more impressed with Cincinnati's defense. It seems like we're getting turnovers more this year compared to last season. I mean, heading into the Baltimore game, I think we were second or third in interceptions. And Taylor Britt was like 4th in interceptions heading into Baltimore, something like that. And it just kind of shows how good Anarumo is, because Taylor Britt was a 2nd-round pick. He didn't really know what to expect of him, and Anarumo was getting the best out of his guys like Taylor Britt. DJ Turner's a rookie. There's some snaps you can kind of tell with his young experience, but he's played better than people gave him credit for. And this defense is getting more turnovers. I think they're getting a little bit more sacks compared to last season. This defense last season did not seem like it was getting as many sacks. I mean, Hendrickson, I think he has more sacks this season than he did all of last year. It's kind of a down year when it comes to sacking the quarterback last year, but this year it's up. It's just when you look at the yardage and points, it's high, but you're sacking the quarterback more. You're getting more turnovers. It's one of those things. I mean, you got to give up. I think you should be willing to give up points and yards. It means getting sacks and interceptions and stuff like that. But it should be interesting. Lots of uncertainties these next couple of weeks for the game. And then lots of uncertainties from the offseason. I'm sure we're going to have lots to talk about, even in this next couple of weeks. Cannot imagine how much these next couple of months when it comes to the offseason. Really appreciate you all tuning in stuff, commenting and stuff. But Frank, can you kind of tell some of the listeners who can follow you on social media?
Yeah, the name of my show is the Unofficial Bengals Podcast, and you can find me on Instagram or X or Threads at Cincy Bengals Pod.
I'll make sure to put the links in the description below so people can check out your content. Also, make sure to check out his podcast. Has the best podcast by far of any Bengals podcast out there. You can follow me, the Sports Behind Show, on Instagram, S2Behind Show on Twitter. If you're new to the channel or new videos before, I would really appreciate it if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. I thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Sports Behind Show.